So I'm back out here, and believe it or not, this is take two. Yeah, I did this just after work, and it was not a problem, you know. Did my little spiel, went out for a run, came back, did some work that I had to do this evening, started editing this, and realised that the sound didn't appear good, the image wasn't good, and basically I didn't like it. So take two. Yeah. And what I'd said in the previous take was I'm going to try and keep this to one subject and see how that goes. And I was going to go back to and discuss the boots that I was wearing, and I mentioned in last week's video and only briefly touched upon them. But to go and talk about the boots, I need to step back a bit and talk about barefoot running. Now, when I say barefoot running, I don't mean literal bare feet. It's a style of running which emulates it as closely as possible, and it's done by wearing various different types of shoes, like these ones. These are the Vibram 5 fingers, so called because we got toes, yeah, individual toes, and effectively it's like a glove for your feet, so they called it 5 fingers. But the point of these is they're thin, very thin. There's about 3 millimeters of rubber between your foot and the ground, and it's there purely to give you some protection, not sponginess. Yeah, we're talking sharp object protection. Yeah, because there's plenty of people out there in this world who are inconsiderate. Choose your word of expletiveness here, and they leave broken glass and all sorts of nasty things out on the streets, which would just cause your feet harm. Now, this is where I started my barefoot running journey, and I've had a love-hate relationship with barefoot, and I think it's partly because I always try to do a little bit too much, too soon, and I end up getting an overuse injury. Yeah. And one of the things I have to remember is that my feet have been encased in normal shoes and normal trainers and normal boots for the better part of 50 years. Yeah, and it's only in the last sort of 5 years or so that I've been doing more running and etc. And dabbling with barefoot. Yeah. In between this style, I've also ran in this style. These are ultras, yeah? And while they're not strictly barefoot, because there's sort of like about 18 or 20 millimeters, 24 millimeters of EVA foam here, they are considered minimalist shoe, yeah, because they are flat as a pancake. There is zero drop between the toes and the heel, yeah, and by that I mean that is literally the same thickness. Yeah, underneath your toe area and underneath your heel is the same thickness. Most running shoes these days have anywhere between sort of like 6 and 24 millimeters of drop. I mean, that's an insane amount of drop. I think the average is probably around about 12 millimeters of drop. Still a lot. And if you have a Google and search around the internet about bare feet and barefoot running, you'll find that the people discuss why we have a heel counter. Yeah? And the basic part of it goes into history. Yeah? And the shoe wear history for a heel counter is horse riding. Yeah? So go far enough back, our shoes were flat as a pancake, thin bits of leather that protected the foot, yeah, from the pavement, or back then muddy streets. Yeah. It just gave you a bit of protection. When we started horse riding more, a heel counter was added to the back of the shoe to stop the foot sliding straight through the stirrup. Don't actually need the heel counter for normal walking and running mechanics, for your normal movement mechanics, but we've got used to it, and fashion has dictated that the heel be there. Some crazy fashions have got high heels which are sitting like that, your feet are right into your toes. And then there are other fashions where people have bound their feet up. Now, one of the things I love about the Barefoot and the minimalist shoes is they also cater for a very wide toe box, which is really useful, especially with feet like mine. Because I've started down this barefoot route, what's happened is there's some of the tightness and bound up, squashed upness of my feet is relaxed, and my big toe, which was used to push in, is now separating out a little bit from the other toes, and everything's starting to flatten out, open up again. And that's undoing years and years worth of, it's not like binding your feet. Now, part of talking about binding of feet, another illustrative point is that if you put your arm, break your arm, you put your arm into a cast, during the months that your arm is in that cast repairing itself, it can't move. The muscles that would normally be doing all of that movement are no longer in use, so they atrophy, they shrink and become weak, and when you take the cast off you have to gently build that back up. It's the same with barefoot shoes. You take the restrictive shoe away, and now you're asking your foot to do something it hasn't done in years. And that's all little bones. I mean, there are something like 48 bones and 20 odd muscles and ligaments within the foot itself. I think those are the figures. We can always check. First person to Google it and correct me. Bonus point. But so the foot is amazingly complex. Now, when you've got normal running shoes, because of all the padding that's in the back, you have a tendency to heel strike. It means you come down on the heel, which sends shocking vibrations up, straight up the ankle bone, straight through the shin bone, into your knee, up your thigh bone and into your hip, and consequently into your lower back as well. That causes various kinds of injuries that various people suffer from. And this is going to be a short video. It's take 2, so it has to be short. Whereas when you're minimalist, you land on your toe, your toes region, or midfoot, so fairly flat. Your heel still touches the floor, but it doesn't land on it first. This strengthens all of your calf muscles and makes them activate again. Because what happens when you land on your toes is the foot pivots through the ankle, so you've got to strengthen your ankle up as well. And your impact weight is taken up by the stretching of the calf muscle. So the first time you go barefoot running, if you do more than a couple 100 meters, you're going to know about it in your calf muscles. And it's only now that I can run 6 miles without feeling calf muscle aches and pains. And I've been building back up. I've been back on my barefoot journey sort of since the start of this year in a proper barefoot shoe, my current barefoot shoe being this one. It's flat as a pancake. I've done over 100 miles in it already, and there's barely any signs of wear on the base. I stopped wearing these because I needed a sock and I couldn't find a 5-fingered sock. They are out there. Toto is one brand, there are others. but I couldn't find one which was comfortable, my style of running sock. So, so this led me to this company, Vivobarefoot, and that's the other thing about it. It's flexible and they're lighter than normal trainers, a lot lighter. So all they have to concentrate on is the rubber on the bottom. They don't have to worry about any of the EVA that's in here. And it's the EVA that breaks down in a short amount of time. I mean, short amount of time. The average running distance for a pair of trainers like this is probably 300 to 500 miles. Average running distance in these is probably 1,000 to 1,500 miles. So your wallet will thank you. Your legs won't, not to start with. Your feet won't, not to start with. But your wallet will. But so I found these. And it was a different make. I already knew about them. There's another one called Merrill. I've never tried them. So I moved on to them, and they were great. I'm loving it. And I wanted to experience that flat foot feeling in normal walking, and hiking if possible. I mean, my previous hiking boots, they're like a solid plank at the bottom. There's no flexing of them. And they are a cast for your feet. You could walk in them all day long. They were comfortable, but they were a cast for your feet. And I was watching Chase Mountain's YouTube channel, and he was doing a piece on are these boots flexible enough for you? And he was basically reviewing these, and they're from Vivobarefoot, same manufacturer as these. So I got onto their website and had a look at the various shoes that they've got, and they've got a trail running shoe which has the same grip as this, with this upper, great. So I bought that and I started walking around in them. Occasionally we walk down to Asda and we pick up the shop and we walk back again. And my feet felt great, my legs felt great, and I loved it. So it made me expand, and I went and bought the boots. Oh my Lord, I love it. I love them. They are by far the most comfortable and the best hiking boot I have ever owned. Now, I've worn various different ones. I've done military service, I've worn military boots. Less said about that is better, probably, because they are not good boots. We often used to say you break your feet into the boot, not break your boot into your feet. They weren't good. They were serviceable. They were easy to keep clean, and they were uniform. The military likes uniform, and no doubt they were cheap because the military doesn't like to spend too much money. It's got thousands of people to deal with at the end of the day and kit out. I've worn everything from like crappy military boots through to very expensive hiking boots to these. Now, what is it I love about these over my current hiking boot or my previous hiking boot? Well, they're flexible for one. They're as flexible as the barefoot shoe that I've been wearing. The tread pattern is pretty decent. It's grippy, it's gnarly. And on the couple of hikes I've done so far, these have been grippy. I've walked down a couple of relatively steep hills, and feet down, I've gone. And at first I was a bit nervous about putting my foot on stuff, and it gripped, and I was surprised, I was amazed. And then I tried it walking around other sort of terrains to test it out, and so far I haven't had any problem with it. Whereas my previous boot, I haven't tried these in this environment yet, but we went walking during mid sort of like lockdowns last year between the two, and we went to the Brecon Beacons, and there's a section of rivers there which is called Waterfall Country, and it's just waterfalls. Me and the missus out walking, loving the weather. Wandered down, got to the top of one of these waterfalls, and we're walking along, and there's some wet, slippy, polished, smooth rocks. And I was in my hiking boots, and I was sliding all over the place. I felt like I was going to fall over at any time. Yeah, I didn't like the feeling. It's not nice. And sort of one person who was here commented, he said, "You probably would have done better in trainers." That wasn't his accent, this is just me being silly. And he was probably right. Yeah. And I think part of it comes from the fact that the boot is so rigid, it doesn't bend or conform to anything. So unless it's biting onto sharp rocks, and it's a mountain boot really, where you find sharp rocks, yeah, it doesn't bend or conform. This, because it's so flexible, yeah, as you're putting your foot down, every sort of rock nodule is pushing into your foot, and your foot is moulding around those rocks. So you've got more boot in contact with the ground, therefore more grip. Fantastic. They are so comfortable. I haven't had any foot burn, foot aches. I've done several mile walks in them now. I feel comfortable. So there we go. That's my little chatette for tonight. There was one thing I was going to mention. One of the reasons I got into barefoot running is that I read there are several books on it, but one of them I read was Born to Run by Christopher McDougal. And this book is kind of like everybody quotes it when they talk about barefoot running. Yeah. And he goes through what his problems were with running and running injuries that he was getting before he found running in barefoot. Yeah. And it was interesting, and there was some interesting science. And since then, there is an entire barefoot community that's been built up. It gains in popularity. It dives down again. Everything has fads. You know. I've seen on YouTube there's a barefoot conference, and this company, Vivobarefoot, is one of the sponsors of that conference. And there's been some interesting stuff and some nice conversations and discussions about the mechanics of the feet. Yeah. So yeah, really good. And I love barefoot running, and I'm going to do my best to stick with it this time and keep going. And I think this shoe will really help. One of the reasons being is that I can wear a sock of choice. Yeah, I've got the sock of choice, yeah, in this shoe, and when the winter comes, I'll be able to keep my feet warm and still run barefoot. Yeah, I have tried running proper barefoot one time. One of the years that we went over to Jamaica, I went for a run on the beach. Yeah. Let's put it this way, it's not as glamorous as Hollywood pretends it is. Yeah. I did the run. I did a 3-mile run, and at the end of it I had a blister on the sole of my foot from the sand. Whether it was the wet sand, the dry sand, or the hard bits of sand that I ran over, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting sand to be nice and squishy to the feet and comfortable enough to run on. Maybe a little bit harder work because it would move and you'd have to run through it, but that wasn't so good. Anyway, I've been rambling on again for a while about my barefoot running, so I will love you and leave you this evening. I will rush off and get this cut and presented and ready for you all tomorrow morning, and I hope you have a great week and you enjoy whatever it is you're doing. I might be a bit late next week because I'm going up to the lakes for the weekend. So there you go. Love you and leave you. See you soon. Ta-da.